Welcome back to Spellbook Studies, the Reliquary Tower's card highlight show. As the sun sets on another day, yet another card is added to the Commander legal list, although this time it's because of an unbanning, and that's not particularly common occurrence, the last time being Painter's Servant in July of 2019. But as some of our local game stores ran out of stock of Worldfire the day it was unbanned, I imagine giving the card a close look would be beneficial to all of us, as I expect we will be seeing it sooner than you think. Now, like all 9 mana value sorceries, Worldfire's got class, so here's me reading the card doing a bad impression of an evil wizard.
With a casting cost of 6 generic mana and 3 red, Worldfire has the text, exile all permanents. Exile all cards from all hands and graveyards. Each player's life total becomes 1. Now that's evil!
Now, evil wizard me is right. Like all mass land destruction cards in EDH, this one's also not particularly gonna be the most fun to come up against unless your opponent actually has a win con they can assemble immediately after casting. But luckily, since everyone's at 1 life, it shouldn't be too difficult to win. You just don't have any permanents, or cards in hand, or resources in general. Man, these games are gonna be a slog. Now, the win cons you probably already see running around everybody else's minds are 2 cards that can relate to Worldfire through some of its key text and haven't really had much reason to be played until now. Both being utilized in less than 600 decks, Near-Death Experience and Barren Glory are white enchantments that combo with Worldfire and an Oblivion Ring, or similar effect, to give you a fairly easy win. Near-Death Experience is a 5 mana value enchantment that's cast for 3 white and 2 generic, and has the text at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 1 life, you win the game. In a similar fashion, Barren Glory is a 6 mana value enchantment that casts for 2 white and 4 generic, and has the text at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no permanents other than Barren Glory, and have no cards in hand, you win the game. With Worldfire ridding the battlefield of all permanents and cards from everywhere besides your library, all you have to do is get one of these enchantments under an Oblivion Ring. Then once you cast Worldfire, they'll re-enter the battlefield and all you have to do is wait. Since your opponents don't have any cards in their hands, or their graveyards, and their lands have been exiled, there is literally no castable spell that can save them, and either of these enchantments will win you the game on your next upkeep. While it not be as flashy because they don't say win the game on them, cards like God Pharaoh's Statue, Archfiend of Despair, Baneful Omen, Impatience, or Saheeli Rai can win out of an Oblivion Ring faster than either of these white enchantments as well. While these 2 enchantments are probably the most stylish way you will see people win with Worldfire, Commander is a vast format, and it's important to remember that everyone is gonna have their own little flair, so let's take a look at how people might use Worldfire in other ways. First up to bat are our friends who play Flickr. Since Flickr and Blink decks already love to manipulate cards through game zones, Exile in particular, they are in a good position to not just play Worldfire and recover quickly, but frequently win on the spot. While it may not be the most popular color combination, Jeskai Flickr is still a solid strategic direction, giving you access to the core Flickr colors white and blue. In addition to Worldfire, you can gain powerful win conditions like Impact Tremors, Terror of the Peaks, and the OG Perforos. You get value engines in the form of Kiki Jiki, Flame Shadow Conjuring, and Sneak Attack, not to mention if you still want to build a more powerful deck that still uses Worldfire and its white combo enchantments, you can easily fit Kiki combos and copycats into a Jeskai Flickr shell and almost have no impact on its plan. Our play direction with Worldfire in Flickr is simple. Use a mass blink spell like Ghost Away or Semester's End, and then follow it up with Worldfire so that if it resolves, we win on our next turn after our creatures return to the battlefield. And if it's countered, we have simply accumulated more value through repeated enter the battlefield effects. The only other method I can properly recommend Worldfire for is as a late-game aggro finisher, especially if you have a commander that can deal damage to multiple opponents like Ketis Emberclaw Familiar, has haste like Subira Tulzidi Caravaner, or can flex and have both like Saskia the Unyielding. With these commanders, we actually want to exploit the original reason that Worldfire was banned for, because if you're going to play a card that was taken off the ban list, why not remind people why it was there in the first place? If we are able to float enough mana to cast our commander before unleashing the Worldfire, we can use our floating mana to cast our commander and finish things off like that. Since none of our opponents have any resources, whether it being cards or mana or a single creature, means almost guaranteed death for the entire table simply by swinging with combat damage. The final decks I think you might see Worldfire in, I wouldn't particularly recommend just because I think it's considerably less powerful than the alternatives, but you know what, I've been wrong before and this still might have some merit to consider. Aristocrats and sacrifice decks already thrive on removing their own board, so while at first thought Worldfire might be a match made in heaven, as it would hopefully hurt your opponents far more than yourself, since the majority of Aristocrats pieces use die triggers and not leave the battlefield, Worldfire's utility is rather limited. Limited, although, is not useless, as Worldfire still combos with some solid Aristocrats pieces. If you have Outpost Siege in play on cons and resolve Worldfire with other creatures in play, you can eliminate a number of players equal to the number of creatures you control that were exiled by Worldfire. Since Worldfire exiles all permanents in a single sentence, Outpost Siege will trigger from all the creatures exiled with Worldfire under your control, which will deal damage after your opponent's life total has been set to 0. The same principle also works for Vela the Nightclad and Nadir's Nightblade. Just have Vela out and her leaving the battlefield with Worldfire will drain the life from all your enemies, and if you have Nadir's Nightblade out with any token, your opponents will die to the same effect. Not to mention, cards like Phyrexian or Ashnod's Altar can be used to churn out mana before you resolve Worldfire to more easily cast your commander after the board has been ridden of anything and everything that could stop you. Worldfire is an extremely unique card with a high power level considering it's in the right strategy. However, it's always important to remember that, as with all complete board wipes, their power comes from their oppressiveness to the entire board. They are some of the most common cards on the EDH Rec's top 100 saltiest list. In fact, in the top 15 there are 5 of them, not including Worldfire, which I expect will be joining their brethren very soon. In fact, if we include land destruction cards, they make up more than half of the top 15. So let's face it, Worldfire is fun and interesting if the caster wins quickly, but please, just don't be the guy who casts it for no value and screams, "So random, right guys?" Nobody likes that guy, so please remember, wrath responsibly. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video, I hope you enjoyed. Just like everywhere else on this website, if you liked the video or perhaps would like to arrange to receive periodical updates and content from our channel, there's a very nice red button and another that looks a little bit like a hand that you could press. Our team would actually really appreciate it if you could click those. It's a great boost to our ego. If you're looking for a place to play Paper Magic online or just be more involved in the community, we also have a very useful Discord that you can join via the link in the description. Please, have a good day and see you soon. And please remember my words, just wrath responsibly. I do not want to have to deal with Worldfire being a random chance encounter at an LGS more than I have to. Please, have a good time. Goodbye.